Shout out Sean, man.
Changing the game through real estate. Yeah, changing the game through real estate. I can never wait. Got what it takes to dump this on my plate, and I got a budget. Teach you how to save. Listen to this podcast, you will be amazed. Play this any morning, any night, any day. We're the winning team. We were born to be brave. Yeah, changing the game through real estate. Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Tyler Wynn with the winning team, and this is the Changing the Game Through Real Estate podcast. One of the main reasons we started this show was we wanted to help people by bringing on guests with inspiring stories that can teach us information that we should have been taught in schools.
It's no different to anybody else. I was a bricklayer from East London. I never had any money, and it pissed me off. I wanted to find a way of making money, so I went out to try and connect with affluent people to try and find out how they made money. And in order to get someone's attention, you've got to get their engagement. So I was a doorman of a nightclub, and so I used to get rich people into nightclubs, and then I started throwing my own parties. And it was all just to be able to get to have an hour's conversation with someone with lots of money. And that's as primitive and as basic as it was. Just ended up, I kept on trying to see how far I could take it. Ended up launching the world's first leading experiential concierge firm, and ended up working with everyone from Elon Musk, Elton John, and Richard Branson. So it just grew.
So how did that start? Like, you sound like you named all these like really famous people, but it's got to be like, how did it all like form? It sounded like that had to be an incredible story of how that all came together.
Yeah, I don't know if any of the stories are incredible. It's always cool to look back and go, God, I did this. But like every entrepreneur, I had times where I had tons of cash, and I had times when I had none. But in the early stages, as a doorman, I just wanted to be able to communicate with someone wealthy. And I remember the first time I had these guys come into the nightclub, good looking, well-spoken, affluent guys, and they were moaning because they couldn't get into a party. And I said to them, well, why couldn't you? And they went, oh, yeah. And turned out they just were too bloody embarrassed to ask. So I went and asked, got them in, and then came back to them and I went, hey guys, I pulled a few strings. And I remember saying this, I made a call. I didn't even have a phone at the time, you know, but I'd said to them, yeah, I've made a few calls. It's going to cost you $500 each. And they paid. And here was the dumb thing. They paid so fast, they paid me too much.
Yeah.
And you know, when you haven't got a lot of money and you've got to give it back, you know, because I remember the pain of having to give back the money because they'd paid me too much. But then I remembered how much money I'd made from simply asking to get these guys in who were perfect for the party and the event. So it just went from there. I wanted to find a way of grabbing your attention. And I found that most people, especially the higher the profile, like I've worked for movie stars, booking them hotel rooms. And I've had the hotels come back to me going, why didn't you tell me we had that superstar in the hotel? And I said, because if I did, you'd have had the bloody press sitting out the door all night and they wouldn't have enjoyed it. You'd have used these people that wanted to enjoy your hotel as your next freaking marketing strategy. So a lot of affluent people actually end up becoming imprisoned in their own compounds because they can't walk down to Starbucks. They can't fly into Florence to a hotel. They can't walk down the street or play in the park with their kids. So they came to people like me because they knew I didn't give a shit about that, because I really didn't. I didn't care how famous you were and how rich you were and how successful you were. I cared, how did you become that? And what could I take from that? And I remember my first time speaking to very wealthy people. Well, I'll give you the whole story. I remember, and it was very raw, very blunt. I used to ask rich people, hey, how come you're rich and I'm not? Exactly. I would ask that question. My wife has always said that I've never really overthought anything. And I just would like blurt that question out. And of course, people would be very, I don't think the word's annoyed, but they would be put out and they would nervously giggle. Like if I said to you, how rich are you? it just makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons it makes you uncomfortable, and this is a strange thing to say, is because you don't fully understand it. If I say to you, how rich are you? Then are you talking about the richness in your marriage, in your love, in your friendships? Or are you talking about the richness in your confidence? Or are you talking about the richness monetary? So how much have I got in the bank? It's a woolly question. And it's also an uncomfortable question. But most of the time you go to someone, how come you're rich? Or, how rich are you? And they start thinking of a number. How much money's in my bank account? How much, is my properties worth? And it's a number.
Yeah.
And there's no, if I said to you how much is in your bank account, for a start, it would make you feel uncomfortable, but it's just a number. The number's not important. It's what you can do with it that creates the emotional reaction. So I remember saying to people, hey, how come you're rich and I'm not? And they would do everything possible to avoid that question because it's a horrible question with no real accurate point. And I realized it. So the next time I would meet people, I'd start going, hey, how come you're wealthy and I'm not? And that's a better question. But then I remember one guy said to me, well, I found my wife, I found my soulmate and we got married and I've got kids. And then I found the church and I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to marry your wife and join your church. So how the hell does that help me? So I realized again, if you don't like the answer, ask a better question.
Right.
I've learned I would say now, quite simply, I'm a very educated man, but I would say school had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's all the failures and the mistakes I made along the way that gave me my MBA, So I realized I wasn't getting the right answer. So finally I turned around to people and I went, hey, I've been meaning to ask you, how come you're successful and I'm not? And that was it. I didn't know how many times I was going to have to edit and tweak that question, but that question was the magical one. That was the key. And if I say to you, hey, what do you put your success down to? You're very comfortable to think about that. And it's a comfortable question compared to, hey, how rich are you? Which is a very nervous one. Yeah, what do you account your success to? And so in asking that question, I would get people saying, well, it's how I look at relationships. It's how I look at a deal. It's how I quantify the benefit over the energy. It's how I look at the return, the rate of return, the ROI. And I suddenly realized, whoa, I'm getting this information. And I noticed something very simple. It was how they looked at things, how they acted, how they reacted. And then I realized I would be getting smarter without leaving my chair. And I could change my mindset before I got out of that chair. Now, if I said to you, and you can ask your friends this, have you ever lost weight by buying a diet book? Now, if you think about it, you don't, do you? You don't lose weight by purchasing the book. You lose weight by actioning what's in the book, don't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That reminds me of a quote that I heard this week. It was, passion might change your day, but discipline will change your life. And that's kind of the same principle.
Exactly. There's no new ideas. There's just new ways of saying it. So that's exactly right. You losing weight is a byproduct of you taking action. You having a big bank balance is a byproduct of the way you actually look at opportunities and monetize them. You having great friends is a byproduct of you being a good friend. And so I noticed if I wanted to be rich, if I wanted to be wealthy, if I wanted to be successful, all of these were a byproduct of changing the way I thought and reacted and had the better mindset. So that's what it was. I would interview the rich, just like you are. I would interview the richest, most powerful people in the planet by first getting them to meet Elton John or getting them backstage at a concert or getting them into a nightclub or booking them a table at Cipriani's where they didn't have a reservation. All of these things that would impress them. And then the following day go, hey, did you enjoy that last night? Yeah, it'd be great. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, How do you look at success? How do you view success? You know, and that was it. I basically was podcasting before podcasting even was anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were the original.
Yeah, look, I just ask questions. How many times do you see kids point and stare and ask ridiculously, stupidly simple questions? That was me. And so I was podcasting from a very early age. I've often said that if I was born now, I wouldn't have to go and get you into parties or work with the Vatican or anything like that. I would just quite simply send you an email and go, hey, can I have you on my podcast? And I'd get the same information. But isn't it amazing how many people get this information and do jack shit with it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I'm no idiot. If someone in front of me is going to tell me how to do something that's going to be hugely successful for me, I'm not that much of a moron to ignore it.
Interesting.
Well, and it seems like you have such a great mindset. Where do you think at the point in your life was pivotal to you to where you became so self-aware and noticed that there was a difference between these different classes of people, and what triggered you to try to figure it out and become on their level?
Wow, there is so much in that question. There really is way more of a more powerful question than I think you realized. So let's dissect it. I've never cared about being on anyone's level. I've cared on being on mine.
Okay.
You know, I don't allow someone else's standards to dictate mine.
Right.
So I know people that have more money than me. But I don't want to be on their level of paycheck.
Right.
I want to be on their level of mindset and then create my own mindset. You know, so I think the first thing to do, and it's very problematic today, and that's why it's a deep question. We all judge others and try to become them. You know, how many times do we try to build a unique business by imitating other people?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's ridiculous. We first of all want to be unique. We want to be individual. We want to stand on our own 2 feet. So we start by pretending to be someone else. That's ridiculous. All right. So don't try and be on someone else's level. Design yours. For a start, I'm sitting here at the moment. I'm in my studio. My studio's in the back end of the garage. I don't have a car. Okay. Am I unsuccessful because I don't have a car? I don't have a Lamborghini to lean up against. I don't take photos of myself on private jets. So does that make me a lower standards? I ride motorbikes all the time and I say what I feel and I call it as it is. If it's inappropriate, I'll be corrected. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say something stupid and then stand to be educated. But that's my standard. That's my level. And I'm very, very happy. If I want to go and buy a Lamborghini, I can. I just choose not to. So I want my level and my standards. And then you say the other part of the question was the pivotal point of when you discovered this. That's a tough one because I think I'm still discovering it. Okay. I am in a mountain of pivotal moments where I go, oh, right. Yeah, that would be better. You know, I'll do a podcast and I'll think to myself, I could have done that better. And then the next podcast will be better. I'm on a constant journey. I remember a friend of mine, Joe Polish. He said to me, the definition of hell is to meet the man or woman you could have been.
Oh, yeah. Like
wow.
And for that reason, I have a fear and a desperation to never be the same person that I am today in 6 months' time. And for that reason, I try different things. I read different things. I'm constantly trying to find the next refinement, the next pivot, the next change. But throughout my life, there's been 1,000,001 aha moments that have caused me to go, all right, I'm going to do that. I think one of the biggest aha moments and the biggest pivot is continuing my ignorance and curiosity. See, at the beginning, I was a very crude, rough-edged, bad communicator. That because of what I was trying to do, I got better in the way I acted and the way I looked. But then without paying attention to me and constantly being the guy in the black T-shirt riding around on a motorbike, I suddenly realized because I hadn't paid any effort on trying to make myself look pretty, sound pretty website, long words I can't even say, let alone spell. I suddenly realized that I'd built my own brand that was blatantly, unapologetically me. And I found out that people were saying, hey, you want to meet Steve Sims? Rough around the edges, but that guy gets it done. Whatever you need, that guy gets it done. And I realized that I was branding myself as a solution. Too many people today on their websites, in their social feeds, on any kind of copy, text, email, they try to build themselves into someone they are not comfortably at. Right. And me, don't give a shit. This is me. You want to work with me? Great guns. You don't, move on. No harm, no foul.
So that mindset, is that what really helped inspire you to create your book, like Bluefishing?
No. For anyone out there trying to write a book, get ready to hate me. I didn't want to write a book. I never thought of writing a book. I was literally in a party talking to someone, telling stories, and they went, you should write a book. And I went, yeah, sure. And they went, no, you should. And they introduced me to someone at the party. And this is what happens when you raise your standards. If you're in a room, in fact, let me ask you this. In fact, let me pick on you two. How many times have you ever been in a party, in a bar, having coffee with a group of people, and you start talking about your dreams, your aspirations, what you want to do with your business, and someone in that group smirks, or you get people going, oh, you don't want to be doing that. And what do? You then dumb it down. You go, yeah, you're right. I don't know what I'm thinking. I must be having a brain fart. I'm obviously having a crazy moment. No, of course I can. And you dumb down your goals. How many times do you actually dilute your goals to fit in with the people you're with?
Yeah, and I feel like I always get the response like, "Oh, that's not realistic," or like, "That's impossible," or stuff like that. Those are like the words I always hear when I tell them my dreams.
But how many times have you then looked at the people saying that and realized they haven't achieved shit?
I'll say when they don't believe in themselves, how can they even believe in you? And when you have gone through that so many times, especially me being a young woman in real estate, it's something that you just have to kind of get over, and you just end up cutting your words short because they don't believe in it. So you're wasting your air at that point.
You're in the wrong room, girl. It's as simple as that. You see, if your friends are giggling at your dreams and aspirations, are they really your friends, or are they a cancer? 100%. And that was a really tough thing for me to learn. You see, I had aspirations of being comfortable. I wanted to be able to, and I quoted to you earlier, I wanted to be in a position where I could afford anything. I didn't have to buy it to show off to you, but I could afford if I wanted it. And so I realized, if you want to do great things, you've got to be in a great room. See, I will go to my friends and I will go, look, Sims Media is doing really, really well, but I want to scale it to 5 million. And I'll have my friends turn around and go, are you crazy? You only want to go to 5? Why aren't you going to 15? Why are you limiting yourself at 5? Surely your business could be a $30 million business. Why are you selling for? I thought you were bigger than that, Steve. Those are my friends. They're not cheerleaders to go, oh, yes, you could be great. They're challengers. I have challengers as friends that go, hang on a minute. Your business plan, it's crap, Steve. It's too small for what you're capable of. Let's have a look at it. Those are the people I hang around. So when I was in a party, it was already a party full of great people, because I won't get in as shitty parties. I won't associate with those little parasites. I want to hang around with people that challenge me to be better. So when I told this girl the story, it just happened to be that in the room was one of the big dogs of Simon & Schuster, one of the biggest publishing houses in America. 1 week later, I get a fax. Yep. Can you believe that? A fax, not an email, a bloody fax with an offer for a book. And I said to him, I went, look, I don't know anything about writing books, but of course, I know people that do. So I remember like 2 days later going down and seeing Jay Abraham, who's written some of the best books on the planet. And I went to him, what do I do with this? And I got educated from one of the greatest authors in the world. And then I went back to Simon & Schuster and I went, okay, I'm going to write the book. I want to be paid this stupid amount of money to write the book I want to write. So when I wrote the book, it was literally a case of, okay, this is how I do things. And I was stunned, absolutely floored that so many people were overcomplicating shit. And so I didn't write the book to make, millions. In fact, very few books ever will make millions. If you say to yourself, and this is a true fact, there's no such thing as a millionaire author. And I'll have people yelling at me going, oh, shut your face. J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is a millionaire movie script maker.
Yeah.
She never made millions out of a book. She did well, probably one of the best, but she never cracked a million until she sold the rights to the book for the Harry Potter series. Okay. So that's how she made her money. But authors don't make millions of bucks. But what it allows the author to do, that's what makes them millions. Speaking, coaching, training. So when I really released the book, I was like, okay, I look at things like this. I'm going to write a book because I don't know when I'm going to die. And I want people to be able to read the book and to go, all right, you don't have to overthink. Just try overdoing. Jay Abraham always says to me, I have a greater I can than an IQ. And I quite like that. So I try things, I fail, and then I become educated.
Yep.
So when I released the book, I honestly didn't think it was going to be anything. I had enough money. They paid me well. I bought some motorbikes. I actually went for a big trip in Japan. I didn't give a shit. And then it hit me hard, right in the nutsack. I could not believe people didn't do this stuff. And people will say, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I just did this. And then it just opened up. It's got released so far, I think, in like 8 different languages. It's just got released in Russian. I don't know how that's going to go down. But yeah. And it was in Poland last year, in Polish. So, it's gone literally all over the world. And I get contacts from people all over the planet that just go thanking me to allow them to just try something different, something simple, something ridiculous. And then they have this weird way of actually making it happen because they tried. So loads of pivotal moments. The book was incredible in just telling me how scared so many people are to try something different.
So what made you, like, it seemed like you had the philosophy is like, I don't give a shit what anyone says or does. I'm just going to go out and do it. Like, what gave you that mindset? Just like, oh, I don't care. I'm just going to get it done.
I was pissed off. It's totally true. So were you. So was every entrepreneur on the planet. There was a story that Elon Musk said that when he tried wiring some money from one US bank account to another US bank account, it took 5 days. And he couldn't understand why. It's not like someone turns up at a bank, grabs a suitcase of cash, drives it across town. It was literally a transfer of numbers in the reserve. So nothing actually moved. So in which case, why would it take 5 days when, in essence, all they're doing is doing an email? I'll tell you why, because the bank gets to play with it for 4 days without paying you any interest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what did he do to get over that problem? He invented PayPal. Now we have Zelle, Venmo. We have all these different ways of you being able to send money instantly to people because he disrupted the banking industry because he was aggravated about it. You see, most entrepreneurs invent things that aggravate them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I never had any money. I was aggravated about that. I don't want to talk to a poor person because I know what being poor is like, and it's shit. I want to speak to a millionaire and a billionaire because I'm not. And therefore, if I talk to them, I can find out how they do it and become them. So I was just very aggravated. And when you're aggravated to solve something, you have a tendency to solve it. And that was it. People would laugh at me, people would jeer, and then I would look at them and go, well, you're poor. You're not exactly the person I want to be bloody listening to. And I would continue. I did notice something, though. You have to painfully clear out your friend list, because a lot of the people around you are actually not good for your momentum.
Yep.
So I realized that I did become quite isolated because I wasn't quite in the group I wanted to be in. But in order for me to turn left, I've got to move away from turning right. And all of my friends are over right. And I can tell you quite simply now, in the world, from the people that I've grown up with, I think there's two of them that I'm still friends with. One of them I'm friendly, and one of them I'm friends.
Okay.
But how many of us still have friends from school? And when we go out with the group and there's those friends that we met at school, a couple of them are kind of like, oh, Christ, you're still a bit of a prick. That ain't going to change. So one of the toughest things to do in life is to actually start clearing out your friend list so you can replace them with people that actually challenge you and can hold you up when you're having a tough time.
Two things. One of the things I remember you said one time is when most people talk about problem solution, you're saying like you asked the question, why is the problem there in the first place? And I love that the answer for that is, and that's kind of like, I feel like why Elon Musk created PayPal was because, hey, why is there a problem like that in the first place? And he went out and solved it. And the second
it wasn't me that said that. It was actually Elon Musk. Elon Musk actually said that we spend far too much time, oiling the squeaky wheel instead of asking ourselves, why is there a wheel in the first place? You see, think about it. And again, this is why successful people are successful, because they're childlike, okay? They don't overcomplicate things. We've got engines in cars that are a combination of fuel being ignited, which pushes a piston, which pushes force through to the rear wheel. That's a lot of friction. You're driving a bomb that ignites a lot of times. And so for you to go faster, they would come up with bigger bombs in the front of your car, because that's technically what you're driving, isn't it? It's something that's ignited. The idea of it is just lunacy. And you put oil in a car to help the friction of when those explosions happen. And of course, whenever anything's got friction, it cracks, it explodes, and it breaks. So Tesla came along and went, okay, we want to build something that doesn't break. Therefore, let's not have any friction. To remove friction, what's the worst thing about a car? The engine.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They built something that has no friction. There is no friction parts other than one in a Tesla. Do you know what that friction part is in a Tesla?
I do not.
You do. If you think about it, basically, what's the only good friction you want in an automobile?
Tires.
Nope. But you are very close. Stay where the tires are.
The brakes.
Bingo.
Ah.
That's the only friction you want in a car, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd like to be able to stop.
Wouldn't we all? And that's the only time stopping is a good thing. So the only thing that's frictionable in a Tesla is the brakes.
Which is mandatory.
Exactly.
Interesting.
No, I mean, that's a great thought process. And I think you're right. With entrepreneurs, we have that mindset of how can we make this better? How can we make this easier? Not just for ourselves, but we want to help others do it as well, which is really neat to come by. But going back a little bit, back to your book, can you tell our viewers a little bit about what your book is about? Because not everyone has read it quite yet, but they will be after you give us a little bit of example.
So I had this here because I did an interview this morning on it. So the book is called Bluefishing: The Art of Making Things Happen. It's available anywhere. It really shows examples of how a bricklayer from London refused to stay there. And so it teaches you about the art and the value and the need for communication, relationships, goals, how to go for stupid goals, how to stay curious, how to stay childlike. And it shows you how I, as a bricklayer from London, ended up not only working with the richest, most powerful people in the planet, of which many of them you've never heard of, but also people like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Sir Elton John, the Vatican, and then some of the biggest events in the planet, from the New York Fashion Week to the Kentucky Derby to Formula One. How I managed to do it, but more importantly, how you can. In fact, every single chapter at the end of it has a cheat sheet which tells you how you could do the exact same. If you want to have a billionaire client, and you say about being in the real estate industry, you know, why waste your time selling $200,000 houses? Why not sell $2 million houses? And what's the difference? And you usually find that it's communication,
Right.
you know, and it's how to attract the right clients. Are people getting the clients that they get rather than the clients they want? Now, if a bricklayer from London can literally be flying the planet speaking with billionaires, you're already out of excuses. And that's what the book did. I laid it out very simple and stupid, because that's me, on how I did things. And people took it and started finding that they could implement it. It surprised the goosebumps out of me that it was easily scalable and catchable for anybody else to be able to implement these very ridiculously simple ideas to increase your mindset. And with that mindset, the byproduct is more money for a better family, a better relationship, and better options. And that's what Bluefishing is. And I've got a ton of stories in there of how I worked with Elon, how I worked with closing down museums. There's a story in there of how I closed down the museum, the Accademia di Galleria in Florence, set up a table of 6 at the feet of Michelangelo's David, just because one of the most powerful people in the planet wanted a cool dining experience in Florence. And this is what I set up. And then I thought, well, I better get some dinner time entertainment for him. I had Andrea Bocelli serenade him during his pasta. And a lot of people go, oh, that's impossible. That's crazy. You could never do that. And the second you say that, you're right.
Yeah. So when you go talk to these people, because I remember hearing how you approach your clients, you say, I'm not giving you what you need, I'm giving what you want and desire. Is that kind of how you go about making all this happen, as you find out what they truly want and try to, I guess, fulfill it?
So there's a couple of things there to focus on. For one, if you give a client what they ask for, that's called a transaction.
Yeah.
When you drive through McDonald's and you go, cheeseburger, there's a cheeseburger. Do you now have a relationship with McDonald's, or have they just completed the transaction? You're not going to eat the burger and go flying back to them going, hey, who made? For one, you don't know. Probably don't even remember the person who bloody handed it to you. There's nothing outside. If a robot suddenly replaces the teller to give you your cheeseburger, are you upset? You know, like, let's be honest. How much money do you spend with Amazon a year? You know, delivering your toilet roll and your toothpaste and any other kind of cleaning products and shirts and ties and shoes. You buy all of this stuff from Amazon. So you give them a lot of money to buy products from them. But do you have a relationship with them? No, you don't. If another company got opened up tomorrow by, I don't know, Elon Musk, and that company did absolutely everything that Amazon did, but it was 30 cents cheaper on every single product, would you stay loyal to Amazon? No. If you could get it over here? No, because they've not built in any loyalty. But let's just say, for argument's sake, they thought. Just that, they thought. If you went to them and go, I'd like some toilet roll, and they turned around and go, hey, I understand you want toilet roll, but you're looking at it. Have you noticed this one? Because it's actually cheaper. And with the amount of toilet roll, it'd be a better toilet roll for you. You know, or look at this. If you buy this, it's cheaper or can last longer, and that benefits you. You're challenging the question given. See, for me, when people ask me a question, I realized that if I gave them what they wanted, two things happened. One, I completed the transaction. And two, I allowed myself to be competed against.
Yeah.
Now, if you came to me and go, hey, Steve, I'd like this. And I'd be like, is that all you want? You know, why do you want that? Why is this important to you? I quizzed them. I challenged them. And then if they said to me, I want a yellow cake. Yeah, I'll give you a yellow cake. But I'll give you a yellow cake and I'll surround it with little yellow cupcakes. And I'll give you this yellow cupcake paradise in your own setting. I will add sparkle to it above and beyond what you've asked for. This is a true story. I had a baker and they said to me, how do I stand out? And I said, you stop giving clients what they ask for. And he said, well, that's ridiculous. And I went, no, this is what I want you to do. Everyone that asks you for a cake, I want you to ask them one question. And it's a competitive, combative question that you're going to ask. In fact, it's a horrible question that may even alienate your clients. He's like, well, I'm not going to do that. And I went, you need to. I said, everyone knows about a 4-letter word that's offensive, that starts with an F and finishes with a K. But I'm now going to give you a word that starts with a W that alienates people. But it needs to be the word used. That's it. So I said, anyone that comes in and asks you a question, asks for something, just look at them and go, why? And shut up. And it will bother people. People will be like, what do you mean, why? And he had a guy come in and he said, I want a red cake. And he remembered what I told him. And he went, okay, you want a red cake? Why? And it knocks people back because they have to think.
Yeah.
And the guy went, because I want a red cake. Yeah, I'm sure you do. You've already said that. But why? I want to understand why the need, desire for a red cake. And the guy went, well, it's my dad's birthday and he's always loved Ferraris and those fancy Italian cars. And so I thought I'd give him a red cake. Well, that's fantastic. But why don't we do a red cake with the Cavallino horse on the top? He was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Now that will be a Ferrari cake. And he went, and how old's your dad? Oh, my dad's very old. So does he like the new Ferraris? Or does he like the Ferraris from like the golden years of the 70s and 80s? Oh, when those are the years he always talks about. Well, then why don't we do some little cars around the bottom to simulate the period of cars that he liked? And that's what they did. And when the guy came back, so he told him what he was going to do and he charged the guy. But here's the beautiful thing. Many people know that if you look at the badge of a Ferrari, it's actually yellow. Okay, so the Ferraris are red, the badges are yellow, and they have the Cavallino horse on them. So what he did was when he came back, what was he expecting to get from the baker? He was expecting to get a red cake with a Cavallino horse on the top and red vintage Ferrari toys around the bottom, wasn't he? Because that's what they'd discussed. So when he came back, those red classic cars were on Ferrari yellow cupcakes surrounding a red cake. He had given him, again, more than he had asked for. So when the guy came back, not only did he have a red cake, he now had yellow cupcakes with those little cars on the top. Now, if he goes away and someone says, I want a red cake, who's he going to talk about? Oh, you think you want a red cake? You speak to this guy. Yeah. This guy will give you what you lust for, what you desire for. So when someone ever came to me and went, hey, I want to do this, I'll be like, okay, why? Oh, because of this. Okay. But is that all you need? Or is there something more? And I always felt that if I was to give a client not what they asked for, but what they lusted and desired for, that would create loyalty, connection, relationship. And in doing so, they would talk about you.
Yeah.
You see, when I had my concierge firm, and even now with the media firm and my coaching, I don't market outside of the clients I work with. And then the clients I work with talk about me. And then I get people going, hey, I saw what you did with Johnny. I saw how well Billy's doing. Can you work with me? Talk to me. What do you want? And then when they tell me what they want, what do I ask them?
Why?
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. It really makes you really get deep with somebody and kind of pull out what they don't even know until you start stimulating their brain with all these different questions. It really makes them think, which then, you know, conversations today are just so mundane, but you add that extra step and that next level, and it really creates a bond between two people that you would never expect.
Yeah. And I feel like
conversations, sorry to interrupt. Conversations today are the worst that they've ever been. Because conversations today are based on either transactional content, you know, I need you to do this, this, and this. You'll do it, great. That's one transactional conversation. The other one is superficial about, oh, look at my car, how wonderful I am. How many times do you say to someone, oh, how are you doing? And they go, oh, I'm great. But inside they're crumbling. They're in a bad relationship.
Yeah.
Their business is having trouble. You know, I will literally say to people, and they will say, how you doing, Steve? And I'll be like, oh, I'm great. And they will literally grab me and they go, no, I asked you a question. How are you doing? And it makes me think, and I go, do you know, actually, I'm having a tough time. You know, I'm working on this project and I'm getting friction on it, bad friction. And they go, well, okay, have you thought about that? And they want to know, they want to help me. And the third thing is the downside with today, we're shit scared to have a conversation in case we say something stupid. There are so many things that you can't talk about. There are so many things that if you say, you will be annihilated or you'll be caught up in the cancel culture. Oh my God, he said the word black. He said the word me too. What he said was sexist. I saw a report today that you can't use in Florida, there's a law coming in that you're not allowed to use the word gay. Okay, that's wrong. Okay, they're trying to make that word banned, I think, from schools. Okay, and here's the dumb thing. I don't know what they're going to replace it with. So for me to look stupid and go, oh, I saw a gay couple today, you know, and for fear of being alien, I don't say anything. Yeah. So in today's world, we're actually scared to say things that we don't fully understand. So we go with the alternative. We don't say anything.
Right.
We don't have conversations.
I feel like everyone, like, they make it where like everything's offensive nowadays. Like anything can be taken offensive and everything like that. So it's like that's why, like, even when I asked someone, I asked someone today, I was like, how are you doing today? And they said, oh, I'm good. I was like, I feel like everyone's going to say they're good, even if they're not good.
Everyone I feel is so defeated too, to where they don't know what to do. So with you being such a great relationship builder, what would be your advice you could give to somebody when you don't know somebody and you don't have that prior existing relationship to start a conversation? Maybe it's business, maybe it's just relationship. How would you make that initial contact?
With someone that I don't know, or I'm in a room where I'm actually facing them and I want to engage them in a conversation? Which one?
Where you're in the room with somebody and you want to go and introduce yourself.
All right. So here's how it happens. It doesn't matter if they're famous or not. I guarantee you that if I get a phone call, they want something. If I was to phone you at 8 o'clock and the first thing you think of is how the bloody hell did he get out my phone number? But before you even pick up the phone and you can see me, it's on you know, the recognition thing, you know, I want something.
Yeah.
So the second you're in a party and someone's walking towards you, you know they want something. It could be to clean your plate. It could be to get you another drink. It could be to ask you a question. It could be to get a selfie. But you know that person wants something because they're coming towards you.
Yeah.
So this is the first thing you do. Hey, how you doing? My name's Steve Sims. You don't know me. That's the first thing you do. Get them to settle down.
Yeah.
Because how many people have ever walked up to you and they've gone, hey, how you doing? You know, oh, and you're doing a podcast now. So these people are going to hear you. They're going to see you. They may see you on posters, advertising. They think they know you. You don't know the shit they are. So they walk over to you and they go, "Hey, how you doing?" And you're stood there going, "Oh, I don't know this person. Have I met them at a party? I don't know them at all." And you're stressed. So the first thing you do is you go, "Hey, my name's Steve Sims. You don't know me, but I've been watching your podcast, or I read your book, or I saw you on stage, or I saw you at an event, and it really was good. And it meant a lot to me. And I just wanted to say thank you." It relaxes them. Now you can have that conversation with someone that you're trying to sell real estate with, someone that's in your town. You can have that conversation with someone that's at the local, PTA meeting at your school, who made a comment and stood up, and you can walk out and go, "Hey, you don't know me. My name's Steve Sims. I'm Julie's dad, but I saw what you said and I really resonated with that. But what made you stand up and say it?" See, if you ask people about them and what's important to them, it becomes their favorite subject. Right. I noticed you got the shirt on there, Krypton. Why did you choose that shirt? What's the reasoning behind that? Oh, I just like green shirts. There's got to be something, isn't there? So if you speak to people and then challenge them, two things will happen. One, it'll scare them. Why would it scare them? Because you're trying to start one of those things that don't happen today. Conversations.
Right.
That's true.
I had a coaching session with a group of salesmen up in San Francisco about 2 years ago. And I said to him, "Okay, I'm going to put you in a hugely scary situation. You're going to be terrified. In fact, I guarantee people are going to look at you like you're either trying to mug them, steal from them. You're going to be put in a very violent, uncomfortable situation." And they were like, "Shit, what's he going to do?" I took them to the local Starbucks. And I said, "This is what you're going to do. And I challenge you to do the same. You are going to go up to the counter and you're going to order a coffee. Then you're going to step to the side like everyone does. And you're going to strike up a conversation with someone waiting for a coffee. Now, think about it. When you go in your local coffee shop, this is what happens. They walk up to the counter, they ask for that mocha frappalappa or whatever the bloody, I'm in LA, so some of the bloody things that you get is ridiculous. They order their coffee and then they step to the side, and the first thing they do, because God forbid they can stand alone in peace for 60 freaking seconds waiting for that coffee, they get their phone out, don't they?
Yeah.
And they start looking at their phone and they start doing this. Now, I don't know how many of your people on this podcast will be able to see this, so we'll probably have to explain it, but I'm holding my phone up with two hands. If I was to remove my phone, look what position I'm in.
Yeah.
Fighting stance is what it looks like.
Fight mode.
100%. When you are in a crowded room, you end up holding your phone with two hands. Your elbows are in, your knuckles are up. Remove the phone. You are in a protective stance. Psychologically, when someone tries to invade your space with a question, you're already in a guarded position.
Yeah.
It's very hard to penetrate. They start looking at you. One of the easiest ones, and it's funny as hell, you just remark on someone's shoes. "Oh, I like your shoes. Where'd you get those?" "Oh, I've got the same pair of shoes." Do you know what the first thing happens when you comment on someone's shoes in a coffee shop? Guess, what is the first thing they do?
Look at their shoes.
It's like you can't remember what fucking shoes you put on that morning. But they look down, don't they? They go,
"Yeah.
Thank you." I know what shoes I'm wearing now, and I'm stood talking to you. But it's a knee-jerk reaction, and they will look at you strangely. So I had this crew. They said it was the hardest thing to do, strike up a conversation with someone in a coffee shop.
Oh, interesting. I'm gonna have to try that.
You try it. Two things. One, watch, and then two, try. But that's what's happened. Now, I did that, and I said to this girl, now this gets even worse. I'm 56 years old. I'm 245 pounds of tattooed biker ugly. I'm not exactly a picture postcard of who you want to chat with. So I walk up to the bar because I've got to demonstrate to my people, this is what you do. I order my coffee. The girl next to me is like, I don't know, 22, 23-year-old. She steps to the side. She's got a summer dress on and these shoes, steps to the side, grabs up her phone, elbows down, knuckles up, holding the phone. She's in stance. All right. Happens every single time. Next to her was a woman that I could assume was her mother and a young girl. Okay. Now she's protecting her young girl, so she can't have her phone out. All right. But she's looking after this girl. So I step to the side. Right. Here we go. Action time. I say to this young girl, hey, I like your shoes. What does she do? She looks at her shoes. Then she looks at me and she's got the word pervert written all over her forehead because this old bald biker is now trying to flirt with her about her shoes. So she sneers at me and she goes, thank you. And so I got to continue because I got my boys looking at me. Everyone's around me. I go, no, seriously, my wife's looking for some shoes and I like those. Where did you get those shoes? What does she do again? She looks at the shoes. And she said, and she literally said the company, I don't even know what company she said, but she went, that's so-and-so. Back to her phone. Now, next to her is this woman who's, just ignoring everything. But this little girl doesn't have the obnoxious ego spirit yet. She hasn't got into that world yet. So she's looking at me. She's not scared of me. She's just looking at me, trying to engage with this girl, and at the same time looking at the girl's shoes. And I caught her eye. So I looked at her and I went, do you like those shoes as well? She went, I do. They're my favorite color.
Oh.
Bingo. Straight away, mum smiles, and I start conversing past this girl about her shoes. And I talk about my wife's looking for some shoes and she's got this jacket and I think it would match these shoes. And she's like, well, where's your wife? And my wife's actually back in LA at the moment. I'm just up here for a few days, but I really like those shoes, but at least I know where I can get them. I might get them and surprise my wife. And me and this girl was having this little conversation. Mum's happy. There's no fear of her being attacked. We're in a crowded room, so she's fine. I'm just having a little conversation. But do you know what happened? This beautiful little conversation's going on. The girl's feeling left out. She's the subject of the conversation, but she ain't in it.
Yep.
She's feeling left out, and she's also feeling a little bit of a bitch now because she played that character real well.
Yeah.
She can't come to me because, hey, I'm big and scary and I may bite her. So she looks at the little girl and she's like, thank you for liking my shoes. And they start conversing. And do you know what happened? She lowers the phone.
Yeah.
And starts getting into it. I had a lot of friction at the beginning, but within 3 minutes, all of us, even the mum, is talking about this girl's shoes. She's now the center of attention. She's feeling good. Everyone's flattering her shoes. I even want to buy a pair for my wife. The little girl's telling us her favorite color. She grabbed her coffee and then said, thanks a lot. Really enjoyed the chat, and left.
Dang.
But most people would have left that conversation alone.
Yeah.
And what is that doing to our civilization today?
Dumbing it down and breaking it apart, to be honest.
We're losing connectivity, aren't we?
Yeah,
for sure.
Now I'm going to say something stupid, probably already have in this podcast, definitely will 50 times today. But the bottom line of it is, I would rather say something stupid, maybe even ignorant to someone, and have them turn around and go, whoa, Steve, you don't say that, fella. And for me to be able to go, I said something wrong. Please educate me. What did I say wrong? If I can't say the word gay in Florida, what word should I appropriately use now? Educate me. Hey, there's a lot of Asian hate going on at the moment. Where's it coming from? And how can we stop it? You know, we need to have the conversations. Me too. You know, the whole Me Too organization. Can I comment on your dress now? Can I comment on how your hair's nice nowadays? Or should I avoid it? Educate me, but you can only be educated from having the conversation. You don't become educated by hiding in the toilet.
Yeah. Oh, dang.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. It kind of goes back to the I'd rather go and do it than ask for forgiveness later. But you have a next step to that by, like you said, educate me, create it and make it a better situation so I can learn from it and not do it again, which is a great mindset to have, because I think we should all always be learning and try to take the next situation better.
I keep thinking back from your I guess your Starbucks journey. I was thinking back, like when I do that, go there, like that happens all the time. So I'm definitely gonna have to try that out. So
it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, you're gonna look like everyone's gonna look at you like a mugger because you're trying to start up a conversation.
But oh man, that was amazing. But guess so what would be your best piece of advice for I guess like anyone listening to this podcast and getting started in like their business or entrepreneur journey? What would be your best piece of advice to them?
Well, you're not an entrepreneur unless you're pissed off and aggravated.
Yeah.
If you're very comfortable in your life, you ain't an entrepreneur. So first of all, stop looking at being an entrepreneur as a sexy job. It's not. You're going to get kicked in the testicles 30,000 times. It's a tough thing that I always say, unless you've been screwed over, sued, gone bankrupt 15 billion times, been laughed at, ridiculed, mocked, had your friends giggle at you, unless all those things have happened, you're not an entrepreneur. And if they haven't happened to you yet, and you are an entrepreneur, then the word is yet. They're coming. So that's the word of an entrepreneur is a tough one. But I think today what we need to realize is, advanced as it's becoming, it's also moving a lot in reverse, and we're losing a lot of things. See, I brought up my boy Jay earlier. Jay wrote books in the 80s and 90s. He's old. He's not going to, care about me saying that. The boy's old. In the 80s and the 90s, he wrote the best books on communication, asking the right question, building up loyalty, and actually forming a connection with your family, your friends, and your clients. Okay. Yeah. And then this thing called Facebook and, Instagram and the World Wide Web thing came along, and his was prehistoric teachings. It couldn't be more relied on today than ever. We've got to go back to connect. Yesterday, I actually wrote 20 letters. And this morning, they got posted off to my clients. 20 letters. I could have put that on an email. But how nice is it to know for them that I spent time to write them a short little letter. Actually, it wasn't even a letter. It was a postcard. A short little postcard about an event I got coming up that I'd like to see him at. I sent a postcard. Yeah, they're going to get something and they're going to hold it in their hands and they're going to stare at it. It's not going to be like an email that I could have just pushed, sent to all of my database. I took the time to go, hey, Roger, got this coming up. Spoke with you about it a while ago. Really should like to see you there. Blah, blah, blah. Take the time to do things that other people are not. If everyone's sending emails, send letters. If everyone's doing Facebook ads, try TikTok. If everyone's focused on leaning against the Lamborghini, stand on your own.
Yeah.
Try something different.
So what was the name of your friend's book that you were talking about?
God, there's so many. Anything by J. Abraham.
J. Abraham. Okay. All right.
I'll say one last thing about your book. Where did you get the title Bluefishing? Where did that come from?
Actually, so I used to give people passwords to get into my clubs, and I would always make them silly because I wanted people to walk into the room smiling by saying something silly. And one of my passwords was, hey, you want to go to this club? Finish this sentence. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish. So they would turn up, walk up to the doorman and go, hey, Bluefish. And go, and you go, and they would think they're turning up at a party. And then halfway through the party, would have a rock band turn up. Or we very early on would have a DJ and a live band, and they would play simultaneously, or would have a bunch of cheerleaders walk through, or some Cirque du Soleil people. We would always do things that no one expected. And so people used to contact me and go, hey, I love the way you bluefished that event. And then people would say to me, hey, I had tickets, front row tickets to the concert, and I bluefished my way backstage. It became an adjective. And I was like, wow, this is weird. And so people actually took the word bluefish and then turned it into a mentality, a way of life. And they would bluefish their kid's birthday party, or they would bluefish their way back somewhere. So then when I got the book, and they came up with the title, and they said we should actually continue that adjective format, bluefishing, the art of making things happen. They came out with it.
All right.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on our show, and I feel like I could talk to you for like forever. So, but I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And wow, that was a lot. That was good. That was good.
Where can we find more about you? Are you on the socials or website?
Oh, I'm pretty easy to find. In fact, that's the first tip about any kind of branding and marketing, be the same everywhere. So you can find me at Steve D. Sims. There's one M in Sims, and make sure you throw the D in there. SteveDSims.com is my website, but I'm also Steve D. Sims anywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is probably my biggest following. Steve D. Sims. That's me absolutely anywhere that you consume your media.
Perfect. Well, I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy of Bluefishing because I need to read that. It's amazing.
I've read it, but I need to read it again. So
I feel like that's a good book that you need to put on your yearly schedule, because there's so much knowledge in there. It sounds like, just from talking to you for, I don't even know how long it's been, maybe an hour, but you're incredible. And thank you again for taking the time.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure. Look after yourself.